Hey guys! Tonight's movie review is for Snowpiercer, starring Chris Evans, Jamie Bell, and Tilda Swinton. A little bit about this movie. In 2014, in response to the global warming crisis, they decided to shoot a synthetic material into the atmosphere in hopes that it would cool the world's temperature. And it did a little too well. The whole world turns into a frozen tundra. Most humans, most of everything gets wiped out. And the little bit of the human population that's left gets put on a train called the Snowpiercer that was developed and is run by a man named Wilford. And Wilford is kind of regarded as a god, as a savior. Everything on the train says Wilford. There are propaganda videos with Wilford, everything. And the beginning of the movie is 17 years after that, and a caste system has developed on the train. You've got the front of the train where Wilford and the first class passengers are. You've got business class in the middle. And then at the tail of the train, you have the majority of the people that are kind of, the runts of the litter. And Chris Evans, he plays the main character, and of course his character is one of the ones at the tail of the train. And he and his best friend, played by Jamie Bell, they and a group of the people at the tail of the train decide that they're going to stage a revolt, that they are going to make their way to the front of the train, address Wilford eye to eye, and kind of state demands about what they want, that they should be entitled to what everyone else is entitled to, and get some answers. And basically, the course of the movie is them going through this train. They get assistance from a guy who's in the prison block of the train, and he was actually one of the ones who originally developed the locks for all the doors on the train. And with his help, they're able to try to make their way through the train to Wilford. And of course, during the course of that, they encounter resistance from Wilford's army and from Tilda Swinton's character. She kind of plays the figurehead for Wilford. Wilford never goes to the tail of the train, but she does, and she kind of represents Wilford and carries out any of his punishments, requests, all that kind of stuff. So as they are working their way through the train, they're after Wilford, they're after her character, and they're after anybody who's in their way, really. A little bit about this movie. As far as the acting, I think that all of the acting was really strong. I would especially want to point out Chris Evans, who did play the main character. In a lot of movies that I've seen him in previously, he's kind of played it safe and played similar characters, but in this one he really seemed to get into the emotional depth of the character and really make it its own and not make it, a Chris Evans character. And I really enjoyed that a lot. Also, whereas, we've seen this kind of movie before, especially, a lot recently with movies like Hunger Games and Divergent, but even older movies than that, we've seen a lot of ones where there's a global tragedy, there aren't many survivors, and, there are the few powerful, the many that are treated badly, and they decide to rise up and revolt. This is not a new story, not a new idea, but what does make it kind of different and fresh is the fact that it is set on this train. So you have all of these really interesting camera angles and visual aspects that you wouldn't have had maybe in some of these other movies. And you also have the fact that you really don't know what's coming next. You don't know what's behind every door. Some of the doors, it might be soldiers rushing at them. Some of the doors are the way the upper half lives, the dance clubs and the hair salons and the different things that they get to experience that the back of the train doesn't. And then you even have some trains where you get to see an aquarium. That's how they get their fish. And you see the trains with the poultry and how they're growing vegetables on the train. And so all of that is really interesting and kind of really fleshes out how this train system is existing. And you don't know what's happening next. That is a big thing. You absolutely are surprised every time that the train door opens. And of course that makes for a good story because it builds upon itself. You're second guessing what's going to come next, which is great. Um, some things I didn't like that much. Um, some of the fight scenes I really didn't understand. The soldiers were coming at them, and you would think, beat down the resistance. That's what would make sense. But a couple of the times the soldiers slowed down or they stopped completely, almost out of courtesy to the lower class, and that really didn't make sense to me because I don't know. I'm like, that's not that believable. I don't think that would happen, but it did in this movie. Another thing that kind of bothered me, and I don't know if it was just the copy of the movie that I watched or if it's all copies of the movie, but the character that helps them, who used to design the doors and the locks on the train, he's Asian and he doesn't speak any English. And other than a few times where they use kind of like this voice translator thing, anytime that he's speaking on screen, there's no subtitles or anything. So I was like, I want to know what he's saying. I mean, you could kind of get the gist based on the actors' reactions and the camera angles and stuff, but still, if he's going to be saying something, I personally would like to know what it was. And at the beginning, it wasn't so bad because he really didn't talk very much. But as the movie kind of progresses, he has a couple of like chunks of dialogue, and there's nothing there. So I had no idea what he said, and it bothers me. And then the major problem that I had though is this movie is kind of divided into 3 acts. You've got the first act where it's setting up the story, it's explaining the different caste systems, and it's really showing you how badly the back of the train has been treated for so many years. Then you've got Act 2 where the action really starts, the revolt starts, and they're going through all of these different trains, experiencing all these different things. The anticipation is building as they're getting closer and closer to Wilford, and what's going to be the outcome. And then Act 3 is like a balloon that got a pin stuck in it, and it's just like slowly, like I don't know. It wasn't a payoff. You went up to this point where you're gonna meet Wilford, and then it just kind of fizzled, in my opinion. It wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't great. And the very beginning, the last couple scenes of the movie, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but that didn't make sense to me at all. I was like, so what's going to happen, and what was the point of this whole movie? I mean, not that every movie has to be tied up in a pretty bow or anything like that. I mean, sometimes it's great when it's not, but in this case, I don't know. The Acts 1 and 2 were so promising, and then it just kind of fizzled out. So I would give this a B-. I so wanted the ending to be more of the payoff, like a good payoff from all of this build-up, and it just wasn't. So that's what I thought, but let me know what you thought. Did you like it? Did it remind you of any of those other kind of movies? Was it better? Was it worse? Just comment below, and that's all I've got for tonight. It's a B-. Thanks so much for watching.